Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Shonen and Chill with another new background. It's a beautiful, gorgeous little static image that YouTube cannot butcher the frame rate of. So
Hopefully.
hopefully, yeah, this is gonna start phasing in and out of existence every 6 seconds, just like the last one did. Uh,
It just renders like our old background again and then makes it freeze again.
it's gonna render the background in like 8-bit NES quality images.
Hey, I mean then we can say we have like sick pixel art of Yuji and Deku in the
Yeah,
background.
yeah, that works. All
Hmm.
right, so big week for
Big
Jump this
week.
week for a lot, not just for the big ones, but for a lot of chapters. Were some really big stuff. So let's jump right into top threes, and then we'll go
Hmm.
through the ones who didn't make it.
Exactly. I guess I start with my top three then.
Yes.
Okay. My number one was My Hero Academia. My number two was Jujutsu Kaisen. Then like an actual fucking canyon of quality difference, and then Mashle.
Okay.
Because holy shit, the top two were so good this week.
Yes. My God, they were insane. My top three is number one, Jujutsu Kaisen. Number two, My Hero Academia. Then the same canyon as yours, and then Phantom Seer for number three.
Oh, okay, okay.
So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the ones that did not make it onto the list first. If you can't tell, viewers at home, I'm talking super fast because I really want to get to the good stuff at the end.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna be a bit quieter because I'm in a new apartment and I already caught my first funny noise complaint.
oh,
So
up.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's understandable because my downstairs neighbor's bedroom is literally right under my office here. So
Oh God.
if I scream shit like fascism is not PogChamp, they hear it.
The hell
So
of recording in an apartment instead of a house.
yeah, oh well.
Yeah.
So if I sound more subdued, dear audience, that's why.
Oh man, more subdued on the Golden Week.
Yeah, well,
So I
what can we
guess I
do?
guess the question is, are we discussing Dragon Ball Super and Boruto this week? Because if we are, they are first on the list.
I'm gonna be dead ass with you. I did not even bother opening Boruto this week.
Okay,
I I
that's
just I
no
just
harm
didn't
done.
wanna. Okay, okay.
So does
I
that mean you
did
did
read.
open Dragon Ball Super?
Yes, I did actually read Dragon
Okay,
Ball
well then
Super.
let's go.
So do you
We'll
want to
talk
go into
about that
that?
first. Yeah.
Okay,
What did you think?
it's okay. Like I wasn't like blown away or anything. Like the fight that takes up most of the chapter is kind of like whatever. It's just like, oh, Granola is really strong now, except we have no real measure of like what this strength means. Like he throws a boulder and he beats these fucking jobbers. It's like, okay, cool. Like it's some good action at least. And I thought the way the like little axolotl dragon from the fucking what is it, two Dragon Balls?
Yeah, the two ball
The,
dragon.
yeah, the two-ball dragon. The way he like woozles his way into making Granola stronger is actually kind of cool. Like, oh, I will just give you all the strength you could have amassed in your lifetime, which is very, Gon's transformation from Hunter x Hunter, like, which
Even
that's
gets the hair.
yeah, yeah, and it's cool. That's sweet. But like, yeah, it was a chapter I read, and I didn't feel upset reading it. So I suppose that's better than some chapters of Dragon Ball I've read.
That's fair. I also liked it. I thought it was funny that he got Super Saiyan 3 hair and he even did the pose. For some, like,
Hmm.
they can't avoid giving long hair characters that exact pose, I guess.
Hmm.
And then he cuts his hair with a knife because he's just that
Hmm.
cool. Because he's
Hmm.
just that cool. I also thought it was funny that the old Namekian guy hits the only rock in that entire field with his cane and it makes him fall over. Um,
No, the sacred pebble.
Namekians have no rights in Dragon Ball, do they? There always something terrible has to happen. Whenever something really bad has to happen to someone, they have just some nondescript random Namekian we've never seen before there to be the one to take the tragedy.
They're basically the white lab rats of Dragon Ball.
Pretty much. It's a damn shame. Yeah, and then like you said, he kind of just beats up some jobbers, and he's like, "Look how strong I am now," and they're like, "All right." tell us exactly where those Dragon Balls are so we can go kill that old Namekian and take them. And he's like, yeah, no problem. There's Dragon Balls there. Go get them. And then he leaves. And, I get it that he's like, oh, he thinks all the power's gone to his head. He thinks it's untouchable. But it's like, you also told him, like, yeah, I'm going to die in like 3 years. So you can just go
Mhm.
kill him and take the Dragon Balls after I die.
Yeah, and I think my biggest problem with this chapter is that it's like, oh yeah, granola has gotten crazy strong, but like, what does that mean anymore? Like, how strong is crazy strong?
Yeah, I think
Like,
strong in Dragon Ball has just kind of devolved to can he beat Goku or not?
yeah,
And I guess
basically.
now he can. I don't really know.
Well, because he condensed 150 years of potential into him. Does that imply that any being that like just lives long enough and trains long enough could eventually become strong enough to beat Goku? Because that
I don't
seems kind
know
of
because
weird.
it's weird too because he said that like yeah, I could give you I don't really understand the difference because the dragon's like yeah, I could give you all of your latent potential. Like everything that as strong as you could possibly be and you still won't be that strong. And he's like, "Oh."
Mhm.
But then he's like, "But I can give you all the strength in your life." So does he mean like right now if Granola lifted weights and got swole, he would not be that strong? But
Yeah, like now that you actually like speak it out, I think the difference is between unlocking his latent potential, like what Elder Kami did to Gohan and Krillin back in the Namek saga of the original manga,
and then the
and the
Elder
other
Kai
thing,
dance again, I guess, in the boo.
yeah, yeah, and then the other thing would be, oh yeah, not just your latent potential now, but everything you could feasibly achieve in your entire lifetime.
Okay.
Which, like, all right, Dragon Ball, let's talk about that. So is time predetermined? Is it predetermined how much he could have, how strong he could have gotten? Is there,
I guess
i-
so.
is there a book of fate? Is the Dragon Ball universe deterministic?
Well, also the dragon. Well, it was weird too because they were like, "Oh, you're gonna die soon. Doesn't your race live for exactly 200 years, every single one of you?" And he's like, "Yes, we do, but I'm 50." Also, he's 50. One thing I like about Dragon Ball is everybody's old, man. These are all like old, middle-aged boomers fighting for the fucking universe. There's no
Isn't Goku
kids.
like 60 years old at this
Yeah,
point?
kids have no rights. They leave the teenagers on the island to fight, like to go away, teenagers. This is the middle-aged man series now.
They literally drop off all the teenagers to go protect the environment or some gay shit like that.
Yeah, they're like, go fight global warming, fucking Zoomers. We're gonna go punch each other like real men.
This fucking like 50-year-olds jumping into space, throwing fucking snail paste hands in the vacuum of space. Now that's the Dragon Ball I would have wanted to see.
Need that ASAP.
Mm.
And then they're all the bad guys are like, yeah, we know about the Saiyans because we saw it on that robot's hard drive, and
Hmm.
we're gonna convince them to kill Granola somehow. So that's the plan, I guess. Um, I don't really know where you go from here. I assume Goku is just gonna be like, hey, a better dragon that has 7 balls and not two. Give him his years of life back, and he'll be like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
and then that's what they'll do at the end of it. And then he'll be like, I can
No,
now train with Granola just like I can train with Broly, but you'll never see either one of them again because they're not part of the main team. They're just around.
no. What actually is gonna happen? They're gonna have like a really close fight, but then the power difference between them will be those 3 years Granola has left.
Oh my God, you're right. He's gonna be 3 years too weak to beat Goku.
And then he's like, he finds another Dragon Ball somehow, and he's like, "Oh, give me the rest of my strength." And the dragon's like that, and Granola fucking
He
dies on
just
the
dies
spot.
immediately.
He's like, "Quick, Goku, I have 2 seconds."
We have to
Like,
hurry up and end this fight. I've got 37 seconds left. He's got a little stopwatch on his hand.
he's like, I can't afford to trade in any of my rare gems. I've used all of them. He like completely forgets about his goal regarding killing Frieza.
And
He's
that
just like,
too,
no.
like I can't imagine they're gonna kill Frieza now that he's more or less just a comic relief character that fights
I,
sometimes.
I mean, honestly, at this point, killing Frieza or having him alive literally means nothing anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. What's the difference? Yeah, we'll have to see. As long as it's a cool fight between Granola and Goku, I guess that's all I care about with Dragon Ball anymore.
Yeah, basically. I mean, and Vegeta's learning the Hakai, and I like the little explanation we get on the Hakai, where it's like, oh, it doesn't actually explode things, but when you erase something, the energy it held is released, and that causes an explosion, which is functionally the same thing, but
Almost
it's just
identical. Yeah, but it is a kind of a neat little distinction that like
yeah,
you can't
exactly.
erase energy from existence or whatever. It's kind of cool.
I did not think Dragon Ball was going to be concerned about the law of thermodynamics, but hey.
Hey, if Kurama knows nuclear fusion, then Dragon Ball's got to do it too.
you think Beerus studied nuclear physics alongside Kurama back in college?
Thousands of years ago, when they're both like nerdy students.
The Lovecraftian Eldritch College, where you learn how to be a immortal being of divinity and also nuclear physics.
Everything that you need. Nuclear
Exactly.
physics and all of this other god weird shit.
Okay, I think we've probably said our piece on Dragon
Yeah,
Ball,
that
but this is where we're
that's
at.
yeah, that's plenty. Next up is Undead Unluck. It's pretty good.
Hmm. Yeah,
I enjoyed
like
it.
it
Yeah,
was cool. Like
he she's all
it's
like out of the.
enjoyable.
She's probably out of it now that
Mm-hmm.
she got her arm cut off, and he was gonna
Mm-hmm.
shoot her with his cowboy gun, and then she left her sword. Why'd you leave your fire sword? That's a pretty cool sword. Uh, but they're setting up. There's gonna be some cool stuff in the future. I guess they're gonna try to kidnap the girl, which
Mm-hmm.
uh, Andy will not be thrilled about. And the
Mm-hmm.
power imbalance is awfully apparent now that
Mm-hmm.
that dude is pretty raw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
because you can like copy
yeah, he can
your
just like
negator abilities.
yeah, he can take your powers.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which I believe we've seen before.
yeah, but he like I didn't really understand the specifics of it until this one, where like
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't take it from her because it just didn't feel right. I guess. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. They have like characters in this series have weird, funky relationships with one another. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. Like, I mean, it's fine. It's not like a big deal, but it's a little weird
that
to see them like talking like this and then be like, how close were you? I don't remember you two being that close because he just kind of got introduced to turn traitor to my memory.
mm-hmm.
He didn't
Yeah,
get like
pretty
a
much.
backstory. He just kind of was like, oh, I'm here. Also, I'm traitor now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah,
like obviously
it's also
he
like
wants the arc, I guess, for the same reason that Rip does, because you see him sitting over the grave and he's like, yeah, I don't like any of you. I just want to kill God, even though I'm
mm-hmm.
like having these funny flashbacks of us like hanging out. And it kind of that, at least to me, kind of seemed disingenuine, like he was kind of lying. Because it seems
Mm-hmm.
weird to be like, nah, I always hated all of you. Well, it's showing all these flashbacks of like tender moments with him and all of them like having a good time.
Mm-hmm. He's like,
Uh,
I hated every second being with you, and meanwhile we're seeing them like fishing in the morning and
yeah, they're
having
like
fun.
dancing and having fun, and he's like having a tender moment with the girl that's stuck in the ball thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't necessarily buy it, but I guess he whatever tragic loss that he has suffered. Uh, I assume we'll figure that out here pretty soon. I will say the fight did do what I was hoping it would do, which is make Billy not lame.
That
So
is true. That is
it
true.
it did make him cool enough to have the name Billy. So that's important.
Yes. Yes, I do think that giving him that little montage where he's basically saying one thing and the flashbacks show you a very different story, I think that already gave him a sort of ironic tragedy that I hope we play into a bit more in the future, as he's probably going to become more central from this point onwards. Because so far he's mostly just been, oh, I'm traitor now, bye bye,
Yeah, and he
and
hasn't
that's
done
kind of it.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, he still doesn't feel like a bad guy, which I kind of like because
Hmm.
it, he even kind of looks like he knows what he's doing is not good. and that he's
Mm-hmm.
like hurting his friends and he turned on them and everything, and he seems kind of sad about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if like we're going to get introduced to a genuine bad guy, or if the story is really going to be like two different sides that are kind of like one guy just is overwhelmed by his personal tragedy, but he's not like evil, like he's not on the bad team. He's just trying to fulfill the same goal for his own reasons. And I think I would might like that more. I don't know that I need a
Mm-hmm.
mustache twirler in a series like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I went from thinking he was super like whack to actually thinking he's pretty cool after this chapter.
Yeah.
I want to see more of him now, whereas before I was like, yeah, whatever this fucking guy is.
Yeah, yeah. Like I would say that's probably the best way to sum it up. Like this chapter, for me personally, the main thing it needed to do was give me a reason to care about Billy, and it did that. So honestly, like I can't complain.
Yeah, that's fair
Like
enough.
I keep people I keep seeing people in the comments frustrated that we have such a hard time with Undead Unluck, and I keep telling you all this. I am going to have to reread this because my lizard brain just can't take this. Something about the way these people talk to each other and about the things they care about just does not click with my stupid goo goo gaga brainstem. So I'm just gonna have to. You're just gonna have to
Take it
forgive me for this
slow.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to go back to like the like letter blocks with the little stacks of words that you can make. I'll first go and win a round of Scrabble before I try reading high literature like this. Basically.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm a very like emotional reader, and so like this series is a lot of exposition, which is why the
Mm-hmm.
chapters that are light on exposition and they do a lot of like visual like this one, where you're seeing all his memories and he's like, yeah, I hated you all, but he's like, we're dancing and fishing, like that hits with me. So I like this chapter
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit, but a lot of these chapters
Mm-hmm.
are just like talking, a lot of talking.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah,
this was a
that's
good one.
true.
This was a quality one. Undead
Mm-hmm.
Unluck kind of hills and valleys for me. This one was definitely a hill. I enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Like as I said, like I am definitely going to do like one of my little Shonen Jump spotlight videos on this series because why not? And I think until I do that, I'm not going to be fully cognizant of what the hell is even going on. But after that, I'm sure I can bring some more uh, hot and spicy analysis to this podcast. But until then, it's really just going to be, oh, I guess Billy is cool now.
That's fair. That's fair.
Hmm.
All right. So next up we have Witch Watch.
Cute.
It was cute, but
Cute.
also we actually might have a bad guy.
I know.
Or
That was my
or
next thing.
yeah.
Like, it's actually going somewhere. Like, there's now an actual threat. And I hope it's something that, like, you know, pushes the series a bit further. I don't want this to just get resolved next chapter.
Yeah, it's just like a silly thing where he just beats them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
The
mean,
primary gag of this chapter was funny as hell, by the way.
mm-hmm.
She just keeps splitting herself up and it's carrying the same box. It's really funny
all
to
I
me.
could
I don't
think
know
of
why.
while all I could think of while reading it is that fucking exercise where um you give a kid two containers, like a tall thin glass and a short wide glass, and then you pour the exact same amount of water into it, and then you ask the kid which container has more water in it, and if it gives you any answer other than the same, you just call the kid a dumb little shit. Like this is what this chapter was. It was just like, why do you keep splitting yourself? It's the same weight, and you're putting out the same performance. Like what is the point?
And I don't
Like
know
by
if
the
they were
time
like, when she goes, "Oh, I have an idea. We'll just do it again." She's still all four of them, and they're tiny,
yeah,
and they're all
I
barely
also
holding up the one box, making it worse.
I also
Uh,
like how the guy says like, oh, did her brain power also get divided? So like she's only half as smart or a quarter as
and then a
smart
quarter
now.
as smart as normal. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
This
it
is-
was cute.
it
Like
was.
this was out of all the chapters so far, might be the one where I like was the least invested in the main joke, but it kind of caught itself again by the end when it was like, oh, dog and rain, it will bring disaster, and then there's actually someone standing outside their house, and I'm like, ooh, let's go. There's
Yeah,
like
I'm looking
actually
forward to
something
that. We
happening.
got some exposition, like some genuine plot-based exposition in this, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just some silliness. I don't know that I love the interaction between them in this chapter, where he's like acting like a parent. That's kind of off-putting, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they get
Yeah.
away from that because I liked the flirtation a lot more than them like him trying to act like her dad. That was weird.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
otherwise, it
Yeah.
was good, and I'm glad that we have a direction now.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's all I have to say on this chapter too.
Alrighty, well then that puts us next up into the Elusive Samurai. I really liked it. I thought it was really
Yeah.
good. They do competition. I mean, again, it's the same guy that did Assassination Classroom, so it shouldn't like surprise anybody that he's good at action.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like the whole idea of the concept of the contest and everything is really cool. How they had a specific plan for him to shoot the one kind of cheating dog a few times,
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
to like frazzle the bad guy. Um, I didn't really lose pace of it. I was worried that I was going to lose track of what was going on because it was supposed to be like so chaotic with the horses and the dogs and everything. I really
Mm-hmm.
didn't, even despite
Mm-hmm.
them like moving pretty quickly throughout the panels and everything. The whole contest itself, it's still shooting dogs is still weird. That's just weird.
Yeah.
I can't I can't divorce it from it being weird. I
Uh-huh.
liked the strategy aspect of it too, though, where the guy isn't just like a good archer; he's a good soldier. He's like a good fighter. So he's
Mm-hmm.
staying in his blind spots and he's doing all these things to upset him, so he can't land the shots. And then he ends
Mm-hmm.
up hitting him in the head. And I really liked the last page where he gets hit in the head and he's like bleeding and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got you now, you crybaby kid." And then he's actually starting to enjoy himself, which I like
Mm-hmm.
because the past few chapters has been him like pissing and moaning about having to do anything ever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but him kind of getting into it, like next chapter is probably gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I concur. Like, I thought the back and forth was actually really entertaining. Like, I liked how much of this chapter was just mind games. Like, our main kid, Toshiyuki, having to kind of provoke the Archerman to make absolutely sure he comes after him, to then also try and use his dodging skills as his main advantage. Because, of course, the big Archerman who hits the first shot every time doesn't like having to reload and is slow at it. Like, I thought that was a really cool little back and forth of their own strengths and weaknesses. And I also liked the paneling. Like, it was very dynamic and easy to follow. Although at one point, one of the arrows turns into a bullet train, and I was like, okay, why?
Yeah, one of them was a baseball also,
Yeah,
which
it's
uh,
kind of random.
very different speeds between a baseball and a bullet train. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not entirely sure what the bullet. Like I understood the idea because the baseball I get because they're like arrows are slower, so it's feasible to avoid them. And the baseball I guess was to give a relative understanding of what the speed would have been like.
hmm
The bullet train not so much. I don't really know,
I
but
mean,
it
I
is a
don't
cool
know if
looking
they were.
panel of him dodging the train.
Yeah, I mean, I like, you know, maybe they were trying to say that, because they say modern arrows are faster, which they're only kind of like, I did archery, and they are fast, but they're not bullet trains. Like,
Right? Yeah.
that seems like a weird comparison.
Yeah, well, and again, you're going from baseball to bullet train. It's like, there's got to be some middle ground in there somewhere
What happened?
between.
Did physics just get very, very funny when we got more advanced?
I guess I don't know. Yeah, it was a little weird, but
Hmm.
it was all
Yeah, but I
cool. Like I
mean,
said, the mind games I think was definitely my favorite part, at least. Where
hmm
my favorite exchange of it was when the bad guy kind of turns it around,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, he's like hovering behind him, and he thinks that the horse is going to end up shaking him, which it doesn't happen, but he does end up catching him. And I don't know if they're trying to say that his eye actually is like a demon, like a power that he got from whatever monster is working with the bad guy. Because
hmm
I mean, he calls it the all-seeing demon eye, and he's bulging his eyes out at people. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna come up as like obviously they're I don't know if that's supposed to be depicting like he's a creepy bad guy or if he actually has like monster eyes. But
I'm inclined to say he doesn't, just because he has literally like poked his eyes into someone's ear and they haven't bat an eyelid. So I'm assuming it's just visualization. Like if he physically does all that shit, then why is no one fucking freaking out over it?
well, I don't know because at one point when he's like getting freaked out, um, his eye gets huge and it has like a bulge sound effect. Like his eye is actually suctioning out of his head.
The actual plot was gonna be that everyone can actually see it. They're just too fucking weirded out to
Yeah,
say
they're all just
anything.
grossed out. They're like, I don't want to. I don't want to talk
They're
about that.
like, they're like, if I say anything, he's just gonna keep looking at me.
They won't walk away.
Yeah, just smile and wave, and maybe he'll go away.
Yeah, but I don't know. I have issues again with like this series in general and how
Hmm.
it still feels like we haven't had any sort of like goal for the kid. But now that the kid is starting to enjoy himself and like feel like he wants to do this kind of stuff, I think we might kind of kick it into high gear when it comes to this kind of thing. And he might start taking
Hmm.
it more seriously, which would solve a big issue that I've had with it up to this point, is that he's
Hmm.
been kind of a whiny brat most of the time.
Hmm.
But if he gets into it and he starts wanting to engage more often, that would fix a big problem that I have, at least.
Hmm.
Good chapter,
Yeah,
quality chapter.
yeah, I would say so too. Keep it up, Mister Ass Class.
Yes. All right, let's see. So we have next on the list Phantom Seer, because again, when our lists differ, the losers is a much smaller list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you
Uh,
go. It's on your list.
it is on my list. I really love this chapter. I like that we finally got to see what happened to Iori in the past that fucked him up so much.
Hmm.
Where he had this friend, and every time he was using his power and he couldn't control it, it was giving him these spirit wounds. And she lied to him and said that she was healing him, but
Hmm.
what she was actually doing was absorbing his wounds onto herself.
Hmm.
And eventually, she couldn't handle it anymore, and it killed her, which he
Hmm.
entirely blames himself for. Which I think when I was first reading it, I thought it was going to be like I was fighting this person and this person killed the friend that I like and now I hate them. And I was like, that's fine. I mean, it's a little generic, but it's fine. But I like the this version of it more, where
Hmm.
he feels like Senju pushed him to the point where he had to fight so hard that she ended up dying because of their fight and him, not just like
Hmm.
bad guy killed friend. I'm mad about it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and of course, as always, the art is super great. I mean, this is one of my favorite series when it comes to art. The panel of him getting his arm snapped, where she snaps Kenma's arm, so good.
Hmm.
That's like the
Hmm.
creepiest. Like it's all, ugh. And it's got the super huge crack sound effect up behind him on just the white background.
Hmm.
Shit's awesome. And then the sister in his like phone pocket, she just left him on the phone, just in her
Hmm.
pocket talking to him and telling him to go ahead and release the shadow, which it looks
Hmm.
like he's going to do next week.
Hmm.
I would assume since he doesn't usually do this, he won't be able to control it particularly greatly. Um, but I assume they're going to win here because I don't know. Iori always wins. Basically, he's the protagonist. He always gets his W.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
also the creepy rope spider face thing. Don't love that.
Hmm.
Don't love that.
I gotta say that when I turned that page and you get the double spread with the with the rope construction, my jaw actually like dropped. That's such a cool drawing.
Yeah,
And
it's like a
like
really
as a
unique looking thing. Like that's not just some monster. They were like make it an ant or something. You know, like that's
Mhm.
ugh, it's gross.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super cool. And also it's like on page 2 or 3, so you kind of don't expect it.
Yeah,
You think there's
it's the
gonna be
very
more build
beginning.
up.
Page 2 and 3 is the spread where it's on there.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Like real good, real good. And yeah, I liked how how like micro this chapter felt overall, because it was very much just Yori walking up to the monster, being like, "Oh no, the monster's terrible." The sister being like, "Yeah, kill it with your big shadow demon," and Yori being like, "No." And then he remembers why he shouldn't do that, and then he's like, "But should I?" And then the chapter ends. Like I like how the series took its time to really kind of sit on this moment and to give us an idea as to why Iori um is so torn in this particular moment in time. Like I really think that it's the hallmark of a good writer when they can give themselves this sort of time in the middle of the action without it feeling like super out of place or stupid.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of series that would have done that, where like
Mm-hmm.
the summoning of the shadow monster would have either been the end page stinger, or he would have done it earlier in the chapter, and they would have
Mm-hmm.
started fighting, and that would have been the stinger for the following week. But he just
Mm-hmm.
kind of ends it on Iori being sad and gaining some resolve because he doesn't want the people with him to die.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing giant and dramatic. It's just like he starts to pull up his key, and the kind of the whole chapter really was just everything sucks. You got to do it, and then just a sweet, flashback moment. It was a nice flashback. It was a good little relationship that they had where Iori was like kind of a dick in the past, but for a different reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
where
Yeah.
he's still a dismissive ass, but not for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she does kind of remind me of the new girl as well, so I thought that was cute. Also,
Mm-hmm.
his
Yeah.
little his
Yeah.
little
Like,
past friend reminds me of Ibetsu a little bit.
which is obviously intentional.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah. Like, I just think Phantom Seer does such a fantastic job of giving us just a very streamlined shonen experience mixed with fantastic art and with just the best dip into horror that I've seen in an action shonen take in ages. Because the horror aesthetic was not super prominent this chapter aside from like the bone breaking scene, but it still informs all of what happens in here. Like the whole shit with like the spirit wounds that take over Yori and then kill his first friend.
mm-hmm.
Like those already are kind of a horrific concept and drawn in a way that they don't need to tell you that they are terrible. Like you just look at them and you're like, holy shit, this person's in pain. Like I really think, because I saw some people also say that, oh, it's just good art. Like why are you harping on about that? But like good art is like anything in media, a formal parameter, and when used properly, it informs the story and the narrative. And I
Well,
think
right, and it's a
Phantom Seer
visual
is a great
medium, right?
example.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
you can't have. I mean, I see a lot of people say that a lot in regards to a lot of things. Like I saw it in with Samurai 8 a lot, where people are like, "Dude, the art in this is like imperceptible. It's so hard to follow what's going on because there's just so much shit everywhere, and it's like splattered all over the place." And people are like, "It's just art, man. Like it's fine," but like it's not. you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
you need to be able to convey your point in a visual medium without
Hmm.
having to. I mean, look at Hunter x Hunter's page of pure text. Like
I was about to bring that up because I
that's
remember
what
when that
happens
came
when you don't
out.
have art.
Yeah, when that came out, people were like, "Oh, don't be so harsh on it." Like, it's a visual medium, but it has text, and it's like, yeah, but you know, there's like there's levels to this shit, right? Like, I remember when I complained about the Hunter x Hunter page, someone said, "Oh, but you really like Goodnight Pumpun," which has plenty of pages that have no text whatsoever and just images. But if manga is the marriage of text and imagery, then clearly dipping too far into one of them is bad, whether it be imagery or text. And I'm like, no,
Yeah, I don't
that's
think that's
not how
true
it
at
works.
all.
Yeah, because there's the saying a picture speaks 1,000 words exists for a reason. Imagery, just from an artistic standpoint, is generally considered a bit more versatile or a bit more at least ambiguous than pure text is, especially in something like a weekly shonen manga, where you have to be relatively concise with what you write. So a wall of text and a wordless double spread of image is not at all the same.
No. I mean, imagery is powerful, right? Like
Yeah.
conveying what you mean or what you're aiming to do through an image with no words can be incredibly impactful. Like, I bet you that most people's favorite manga frames or panels have no words at all. I
Hmm.
bet tons of people would find you, whatever. If you said, show me your top 5 favorite panels from anything, I bet a ton of people would show you images that have zero or very few words.
Yeah, yeah,
Because, visually, you can intake information without it needing to be written word. It's not just like, oh, manga is meant to be 50% text and 50% drawing. Like, it's not a
yeah,
mathematical
exactly,
equation,
exactly.
but you have
Because
to use the tools at your disposal, and I don't think an entire page of blank text is doing that, versus where if it's just a still image but drawn dynamically, it does do that, like the arm breaking scene in this chapter, or even back in Undead Unluck, where you're getting all those flashbacks of Billy and there's very little to any text on any of the pages, but they're the most
yeah,
emotional focal point of the chapter. Like,
yeah, exactly. Because like if art really didn't matter that much, then I
then just
think
read a book.
everyone, yeah, exactly, everyone would be reading way more books. But clearly that isn't the case because manga is becoming huge in the world, and that is has to do with it being a visual medium. Because when you read words, what you're essentially being given is prescribed units of meaning that within themselves have ambiguity and have room for your own interpretation, but it is fundamentally like a pre-given, yeah, unit of meaning. Whereas if you look at an image without any words, the meaning has to be completely constructed in your head out of context, out of your understanding of what's happening, out of cultural understanding, and out of your own personal like flavor. And like with anything, if it's constructed inside of your head, it's always going to be better than anything anyone can come up with. So images will always speak louder than words. Just that's kind of just how that works.
Right. Like,
If you,
I will say it's just me, just because I want to cover my bases. I'm sure there will be some people in the comments who disagree with me when I say this, but personally, I have a really hard time empathizing with characters in like a written book versus something like a visual medium. Because,
hmm
like you said, everything that you create kind of in your own mind. You have a bug is basically a roadmap of you creating the scene yourself, right? You're
hmm
reading this and it's giving you instructions on what you should be imagining, what should be taking place to you, the viewer.
hmm
But when you have it drawn out like this, or with a still image, like the panels with the pain on Iori's face, or like the shadows slowly taking his body apart, and you can see like the dude's writhing under that bridge in just agony, or the arm
hmm
breaking scene, like those kind of visuals hit me. And I'm sure there are some people that they could do the same thing with a written book, where they'll read it out and it'll just blow them away. And not to say that I don't read books that don't have pictures in them, but but like, it's a different experience for me, where when you're reading a book that is just purely text. For
hmm
me, it's a much more detached experience. It feels a lot more like the intake of information. And like I
hmm
said, I'm a very emotional reader. So when I can see in still images, like, what am I trying to say? It's much easier for me and much more enjoyable for me to be able to pull information out of non-verbal, non-written sources. Same with like
hmm
movies. When you can convey
hmm
something to me without having to have a character walk in and say, "All right, sit down, let me explain to you everything that just happened." Like, I will love it a million times more.
hmm Yeah, because there's essentially, well, I want to say there's two sides to this. There's a billion sides to this, but the two main sides to this, I think, is what the difference between, when you read a book, your mind has to kind of do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to actually constructing the interpretation of what is happening, because your mind doesn't work in words. Your mind works in abstract symbols that resemble imagery. So you're reading a book about a guy in a house or a guy in a landscape, and your mind has to first construct the landscape and then construct the house, then construct the guy, construct everything about it, and then you can start getting into like the emotionality of it all. And to some people, that is intensely satisfying because, as I briefly mentioned earlier, whatever you construct in your mind is always going to outshine anything that has to be constructed in the real world under real world circumstances and limitations. And to some people, that complete control over a scene within their mind is way more impactful than anything anyone could write or draw. But then there's people like us, where I'd wager to say that by having the visual content and the visual component of the scene, of the narrative already constructed for us, we can use more resources for analyzing the stuff in our head or in our hearts. We can have that space, that, I don't know, emotional power um, to like interpret things in our own emotional way without having to first construct the landscape and construct the house and whatnot. I don't know if this made any sense, but I
No, it
think it
did.
did.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Yeah, I got sidetracked
And
halfway because
I
I
want to
heard like
stress
a
what you said
giant
earlier, where
thud or
there's
something.
what you said earlier when you're like, oh, there's more than two sides to it. There's the same amount of sides to it as there are people who intake media. Like nothing that we say here
Yes.
is going to define how you should or how you do enjoy the media you intake. It's just our takes on how we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like every single piece of writing is incomplete until you specifically read it. And it is incomplete to me until I read it, and it is incomplete to Zen until he reads it, because that's just the beauty of art. Same with all art, really. Like a painting is incomplete until you apply the last paintbrush stroke by looking at it and thinking about it. So that's kind of also the problem with doing like opinionated podcasts like these, or like in general trying to talk about art in on the internet, because you kind of have to be concise, right? Like you have to kind of give the people the bacon and give the people like the cool lines and the cool quotes, like haha maga ghetto, right?
Right.
But fundamentally, God, we could sit here and soliloquize about all the different perspectives and approaches for fucking ages. Like, I know I could. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, and that does become kind of an issue with anything like this, because at some point you have to just, cut it, you know, because
Mhm.
you can't upload a 7-hour podcast. Well, there's like three people I know that would probably watch it if we did that, but
Uh-huh.
you can't do that. And then at the same time, like, we could wax poetic for, you know, 2 straight days about all of this stuff and have someone at the end of the day who completely disagrees with us, because like we said, part of the experience of art is you intaking that art. So,
Mhm.
no matter what, I'm sure there are some people that heard what we said and that it hit with them perfectly. Like, oh, yes, exactly. And I'm sure there are people who heard what we said and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And neither one of
Mhm.
those people are wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's a complex situation. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah, and also I think I don't think it's like a big issue that we can't do that we can't soliloquize here forever, because that's also the thing. Like, we humans don't live forever. We don't have 80 plus years to spend on talking about art. At some point you have to take a stance. You have to think to yourself, okay, do I really want to like weigh the opinions of 5,000 straw men I've constructed in my head when talking about this kids cartoon, or do I just want to read this and go, raw, that's good and I'm right? Right? Like, the show wouldn't be all that much fun if we just went here and were like, oh yeah, this thing happened and I'm sure people have opinions on it anyway. you know
Right.
yeah, like, because that's also part of having your own unique perspective, about sharing it and having people disagree with it. And if you disagree with me, my condolences.
So now we need to have the objective episode where all we
Oh
do is
yeah.
say what happened, and then we need to have the emotionally tender episode where we validate every single possible thought about each chapter.
Zen, I'm gonna be honest. When you said we were gonna do an emotionally tender episode, I was expecting something else.
Well, that'll be for the first episode to hit 5K. That we'll have that. That'll be the spinoff.
That'll be episode number 69,
Perfect.
eh?
Perfect. The last episode of the show when we get banned from YouTube.
It's just us flirting for 3 hours straight.
We need
Like,
to
we
get
don't
somebody to
even
animate
try.
that for us, so it's not just a still background.
Like, we don't even try to make it about manga. Like
It's
the
just
episode just the episode just starts. And it just starts with us going like, "Hey, big boy, how you doing?" Uh, oh, bro.
anyway.
Anyway,
Next on the list is Mashle.
yes. Uh Mashle was so good, dude.
Mashle's always
Mashle
good.
was
Mashle's one of those series just every week I'm like, fuck yeah, it's Mashle time.
yeah, oh, it's so good. Like, the fucking the knife guy going like, "Oh, so this is what pain feels like? Is this what I've been doing to people all along?" It's like such a cliche thing, but it hits every time, especially in something like Mashle.
And the best part is
Like,
it's not just him saying like, is this what I've been doing to people? It's looking at Finn and going, he dealt with this
yeah,
and he
yeah.
powered through it. Like the guy I was calling garbage dealt like I'm on the ground about to die from this and he took all of it just to be a for his friend's sake. And, oh man, it hits so hard.
It's so good. Like also I like the conclusion that he reaches like I was the one who was weak all along. It's like, yes, you were.
Yeah, damn right you were. God damn
Yeah.
right you were.
Ah, it's so good. And I didn't care too much about like the little jobber fight we get with the music guy,
Yeah,
but
Music Man and whoever these two little jobbers are. Nameless
yeah,
jobbers.
I like how one of them has a magic spell called Rocks, and it's spelled ROKS, and it just throws rocks at him. That is so stupid, but I love it.
And then
But all
wolves. Wolves and rocks.
wolf, wolfies, yeah.
Wolf.
But I will say, I really do like the music guy classifying people's strengths as musical notes, just because that's so weird and original. Like him saying, "Oh, you're classified as Ray," and I'm like, and that's weak, and I'm like, "Oh wait, why is that weak? Do re mi fa." So, oh yeah, right. Like it's just a cool way of classifying it that anyone can like kind of follow, because fucking hell,
Right, because
anyone
everybody
knows it's do
knows
re mi fa.
that.
So
Yeah, everybody knows the little
yeah,
tune. It's
yeah.
also interesting that he doesn't base his power like structure on himself because he's not at the top.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like that
Yeah.
little aspect of him too. I was kind of worried that he was going to be a throwaway character when he got
Mm-hmm.
Bankai'd on by Finn's brother. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I am excited to see him back because I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty cool fight with him. Very little jokes in this chapter. We've kind of really shifted into shonen mode here.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely say so. Which like I'm happy with. As I said, I think it's good when series do this and when they like really commit to moving forward with this sort of stuff. So I'm chilling.
I did enjoy the one gag though where I can't even remember his name, the red-haired guy who always calls himself the main character and is not at all. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he comes out and goes, "Hang on, I didn't do anything. We're just on to the next round, and I literally didn't do anything."
Yeah, that's really funny. Like in general, I just like Mashle is at this point where it can actually like pull off big boy shonen stuff and still have it be really funny just with little moments like that. Like I think that that's pretty impressive. Uh, because it feels like I was because I've been reading Bleach, right? As per our agreement.
Yes, yes.
Um, Also, I don't think you're gonna have to read Attack on Titan. I don't think I'm gonna manage. But anyway, thinking back on the big three, it almost feels like they were trying to be a jack of all trades when it comes to like meshing comedy and tragedy and shonen battle shit. And like looking at Mashle in comparison, it feels like Mashle is much more comfortable in this sort of constellation where it's leaning more towards comedy than anything else and manages to like keep it consistent despite moving more towards action. Like it's weird. It's a weird relationship. But I think it was while I was reading part of the Arankar arc where what's her face, the baby that turns into a sexy lady,
Nell.
Nell, yeah, her and her like stupid companions, like all the dumb comedy that comes from that.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
all their
reading that
their
and I
their
was
little
like,
slapstick trio that they have.
yeah, I was reading that and I was like, damn, this would have been so much funnier if it was in Mashle, because I'm sure Mashle would have actually made it
Well,
funny.
I think Mashal almost feels like it's a comedy series with great action in it, while those
Mhm.
other series feel like they are action series with some comedy in it. And I do think the
Mhm.
end result changes because of that, because Mashal has this distinct humor style that it
Mhm.
keeps throughout the chapters, that when it falls into a joke, with the silly drawings and the low res faces and everything, that it feels consistent and it's just, you're ready for it. Whereas when you have a series
Mhm.
like Bleach or like Naruto, where you kind of slide into the jokes after these really deep, serious moments, it doesn't feel the same. Because Mashal at
Mhm.
its core, like you're trained to be ready for those moments. Like even when he shifts and he wins at the fight, that like either it was last week or the week before that, where the stinger is him taking his pose, but he's the low res, goofy looking version of himself instead
Uh-huh.
of the anime version. Like if that was in Bleach or something, I would have found that horribly jarring. But I think
Mhm.
Mashal has just set itself up perfectly to be able to slip into either mode without it seeming weird or uncomfortable at any point.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, I definitely think Mashal has managed that sort of tone and content balance very, very well. So I walk away from every chapter kind of satisfied with what I got.
Yeah, I've never hit a Mashal chapter where I was like, ugh, we need something
Yeah.
better than this, like ever.
Yeah, which is crazy if you think about it, that the series is like a year old now. Like,
Yeah, I think so. I think a little over that. Yeah,
yeah, 50, 54, 55 weeks, is it?
55 this week. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, 55 weeks, that's a year. That's more than a year if you take like all the breaks and shit. So
Yeah, it
yeah.
looks like chapter one came out January of last year.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, good stuff though. Mashal's great
Yeah.
as always.
Read Mashal. Read
All
Mashal if
right,
you haven't.
is it time to leap across the canyon to
Yeah,
Big
for
Boy World?
sure.
All right.
Sure. Which one?
Well, they were flipped. So Jujutsu Kaisen is first up on the list based on the list that I'm looking at. So let's do
Okay.
Jujutsu Kaisen first.
Okay.
Ah,
What the fuck?
I just this chapter is so good. I've been like looking at the page where Yuta smiles just on and off for the entire day, just like snorting that copium so hard. Finally, give me something,
Finally,
anything good. Oh,
finally
there's
something
joy in
happened.
life again. Jesus Christ. Uh,
After weeks and weeks of tweeting hashtag she's fine,
just
finally you're given a crumb.
every week going, this is finally Yuta's here. Oh, he wants to kill Yuji. Oh, it's okay. It's all a joke. Oh, he threw a car at him. No, it's fine. Oh, he stabbed him. It's actually fine. Uh
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh, I'm so glad Yuta's on our side now because honestly, it looks like we're gonna have the Yuta Megumi Yuji team up, which is the coolest shit in existence.
yes. Oh my god, when Megami showed up too, I was like, "Oh dude, this next arc is going to be insane." You're
Mm-hmm.
going to have edgy sad boy Yuji plus Megami plus Yuta. Oh my god. Ugh.
They're basically just gonna talk in like Shadow the Hedgehog quotes, like with the amount of edge between the three of
Between
them.
yeah, I know. Although Yuta is kind of not that edgy now that we actually got to break out of the fake persona. He's like a sad
Mm-hmm.
boy visually, but he's like making
Mm-hmm.
jokes. And that one little
Yeah,
picture of him when Gojo was like, "Where's Miguel?" and he's like, "Oh yeah, he didn't want to talk to you." It's like he's making a little cute face.
yeah. I also like how he's like, "What do you mean?" Like Gojo's like, "Oh, if something happens to me," and he's like, "What do you mean happens to you? You mean like run off with a woman?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh,
Like,
you can make jokes now."
he's like, "What the fuck you mean something happening to you? You're Satoru Gojo. No one can defeat you.
Yeah,
Like,
he's literally
get
like, "What's?
real."
There's nothing's gonna happen to you." He's like, "Stop it. Nothing's gonna happen."
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. I also like that we now finally have like actual specific confirmation where Yuta was, that he was in Africa, because we see the fucking zebras or zebras. I don't know what's the correct pronunciation. I'm not English.
I say zebra.
Well, you're an
For
American.
for what? Yeah, well, that's true. I say things however we want over here,
Exactly.
across the pond, as it were.
Across the Atlantic. But yeah, like I am just so happy that Yuta has now properly entered the main
The
cast.
next month of Jujutsu Kaisen chapters is just gonna be me pounding my chest and grunting into the microphone every time we talk about it. It's all it's gonna
Same.
be.
Because like the next arc seems to be so fucking cool
Oh, I
because
know.
the culling game, the rules seem so fucking weird and cool. It's basically like the Hunger Games.
Basically, but you're gonna have all these people that like accidentally get stuck in it, or that you're gonna have
Mm-hmm.
to. And like our Megavi, Yuji, and Yuta just gonna jump in and be like, "All right, we gotta just start going in." Like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to know. I need to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Also, so Kamo got fucked by Yuji's
Oh my
dad.
god, the I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the chapter where Yuji finally beats Maga Geto, and Geto's lying there on the ground dying, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well I fucked your dad," and then he dies. Like that's it. His last words are gonna be, "You might have beaten me, but I fucked your dad."
He gets like beat by Yuji, and he's like, "Damn, I can't believe I carried you to term."
9 months for this.
Yeah, like Jesus. But the thing is, she has like heel
Yeah,
stitches,
they're
like his
different. They're
mom.
not the same.
Yeah, and like Yuji's dad seems weirdly like obsessed. Like he doesn't pay his dad any mind when he's like, oh, your previous wife couldn't conceive any children and she just died. It's like it's such a bizarre scene. Also, another thing is, if that is Kamo, if Kamo, if Noritoshi Kamo was Yuji's mom, that means that Yuji and Choso are actually
They're
brothers.
actually brothers. Yep.
Yeah, which honestly, at that point, what if he's actually Toto's brother too?
So yeah, that's true. I mean, because he chose his half brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
If
possible. He's just secretly actually everyone's brother. Just the whole time.
Kamo literally just spent all of his 100 years living just getting boned in various bodies. He just achieved ultimate pansexuality. He was just like, I don't care who I overtake. I just want to have mad sex and make
I
mad
just want to
children.
have mad babies with crazy powers. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Like, there's no easy explanation for this, which I think is why I love this so much. It's so fucking weird. And
Something that Jujutsu Kaisen does so well, and I think it's part of the reason I love it so much, is you spend all this time praying for answers, right? You like, I need to know what happened here. I need to know. And you finally
Mhm.
get this crumb of info, and it just makes everything more like convoluted and crazy. For so
Yeah.
long, people have been like, when are we going to see Yuji's parents? What are his parents like? I need to know. Now we saw them, and one of them is just this crazy guy that we've never seen before, and one of them is fucking Bagagetto. Like, what the fuck? I don't
Yeah, but that
I don't think any of the fan theories that I saw were the brain put itself into a lady body so it could get plowed by Yuji's dad.
she got fucking together with nerd Itadori.
Yeah, it's like nerdy Yuji. It's like instead of there's the opposite of Yuji where he's like superhumanly strong. He's just a weak dweeb, but he's really smart.
Well, not smart enough to realize that his wife has a huge fucking scar on her head and is also literally Wizard Hitler. Although her scar does look different.
Yeah,
Like that's the thing that's
it's
tripping me
not
up.
it doesn't look like it's still stitched. It looks like it was stitched at one point and then removed because it healed
Kamo
over.
just Kamo just hopped in for the fun bits and then left.
Yeah, he jumped in. Then it was like, all right, we gotta make this baby ASAP. And the husband was like, all right, I don't know where your head wound came from, but all right. And then he just swapped back. It's like, it's fine.
Yuji's dad was just like, "Hey, I'm not gonna question this."
I'm
Like,
a weak nerdy dude. I'm not a sigma male, so I haven't gotten it in a while. So he jumped at the opportunity.
oh my god, you absolutely know that there's someone out there currently making a video arguing as to why Gojo is a Sigma male and why we should all be more like him.
Gojo is a sigma male, and Yuji's dad is a beta simp.
Yeah,
Who,
that's why he got
who,
fucked by Hitler.
yeah, that's why he has sex with Wizard Hitler.
so stupid. Kamo is like, Yuji, your dad was such a fucking beta cuck. He needed another man to take care of him. That's why I became pregnant. Oh, and you know the worst part about all this is, like, fucking Kamo or Maga Ghetto or whatever experienced firsthand how to switch like between different bodies and different like sexual sexual configurations and whatnot, and he's probably still like an absolute fucking homophobe and transphobe. I
Oh yeah,
can't believe this
100%.
shit.
He still
I
is.
can't believe this shit.
Despite despite jumping into a woman's body to have sex with a man, he's still homophobic for sure.
He's like, look, man, I may have gotten fucked by another man, but it wasn't Adam and Steve. That's all I'm saying. Like,
The balls couldn't have touched because I didn't have any at the time.
his big brain move was basically if he jumps into the body of a lady, it's not gay.
It's not gay anymore. But also, he also hates. He's a transphobe as well. He's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. My curse technique lets me do that. It's the only time it's allowed.
I saw someone say earlier, like, now we have a new, like, biggest question, Jujutsu Kaisen. Did Kamo enjoy it?
Now I like to think that whoever this brain really is, from the millennia it's been alive, it's just been jumping around and just having insane sex for like 1,000 years. That's all it's been doing. I gotta lay low for 1,000 years until these curse paintings come to fruition. So I gotta pass the time somehow.
And that's why, you know, that's why he and Sukuna work separately, because Sukuna clearly is strictly abstinent.
Yes, Sukuna is not a fan.
Yeah, you know, he's like, before marriage, nah, bro.
Sukuna's saving it for marriage.
Oh my god!
Sukuna disapproves of his fucking promiscuousness.
All I can think of is Sukuna being inside Yuji's head, giving him like really like, you know, abstinence only sex ed and shit like that.
There's that girl at the diner who like likes him during the chapter where they get him to come to the diner, and the whole way there Sukuna's like, no, don't do it, Yuji. Don't ruin yourself, Yuji.
Did you know that every time you have sex with someone before marriage, they absorb a part of your soul so that your true spouse then has less of your soul once you actually do marry? That's an actual thing they apparently teach in some like conservative Catholic schools.
God.
Yeah. And you just like, you know, fucking modernized teen. He's like, dude, what the fuck? If I like her, I'm gonna take her out to the movies. I'm gonna like take her home if she wants to. And Sukuna's like, what the fuck do you mean?
What do you mean
like,
take her home? You take her back to her house by 8 p.m. That's the only home you're taking her to.
What the fuck is Yuji? What the fuck do you mean a movie? What is that? That didn't exist in Edo era Japan. Don't be silly.
Society has not advanced at all since I was alive. Clearly.
Although actually, I think we're mischaracterizing Sukuna quite a lot, because isn't one of his first lines in the series literally "Bring me the women"? When he
I think it is what he says.
Bring me the women so I can make sure they're still virgins before marriage. so I can make sure this age is still pure.
The very first thing he does is start making a born again session for everybody to come in.
How do we end up characterizing Sukuna, the immortal demon, as a fucking conservative Catholic dad? What happens during these podcasts, man?
He's just sitting on his porch waiting for his daughter to come home. Now all I'm picturing is him in like a vest, like a camouflage vest. Have you ever seen
Yeah.
that video of the dude like, are you screaming, are you messing with my truck? That's just
Yes.
Sukuna now.
I like to think he's like a protective dad, but he's dad to Yuji. So like whenever Yuji goes out with Nobara, he's like, "Young lady, what the fuck you think you're doing with my son?"
Look at how short that skirt is. Get out of
No,
here.
no.
It's just it's just the are you messing with my truck, except the truck is Yuji. It's just someone's fighting him. He's like, are you messing with my truck?
Now, Yuji, my boy. I know Jujutsu prom is soon, and like if you want to dance with Nobara, that's fine. But remember, not too close. Make space for Jesus between the two of you.
Arm's length.
Arm's length.
Arm's length.
Make sure a Bible can fit between the two of you, at least.
It's just the malevolent shrine, but it's got a crucifix hanging in it.
Malevolent shrine. That's what they call churches around here. I mean, what?
The next time it shows Sukuna, he's just in a priest outfit. Like what? I don't know what you're talking
about. Like Yuji calls upon him. He's like, "Not now. I have to get people married."
Yuji goes inside to that little shared inner world that they have, and it's just a confession booth this time instead of.
Yuji comes in, and Sukuna's like, Yuji, my boy, just in time. Let's read scripture together. They just sit together and read some fucking religious texts.
Sukuna finally says the phrase that lets him take over Yuji's body, and all he does is call up Yuji's girlfriend and break up with her. We're too young, I'm sorry. And then he hands up the phone and lets Yuji take back.
Look, I really enjoy all the weekends I spend with you, but I realize now that my weekends deserve to be spent with someone much more important. Jesus Christ. Wait, I was thinking, Sukuna doesn't predate Jesus, so we're actually good. Like, God forbid we make any plot holes here.
It would be kind of funnier if he did, though.
He's just like, oh no, I don't actually think Jesus is like God or whatever. I'm just a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm just a big fan. He's got like t-shirts.
He like was around during year 0, and he just like really bought into the hype, and he just became a Jesus stan.
It's the same thing that he has with Megami, just it was with Jesus the first time.
Fushiguro, you do remind me of that one lad I was very fond of. Can you perhaps turn water into wine by any chance?
You turn water into shadows. It's close enough.
Okay, to say another substantial thing about the chapter before we completely lose our fucking marbles. I do think it's going to be interesting to see who participates in that death game, because we see Tsumiki, but we also see another guy's mouth in that page where it's like,
yes,
various
covered in the blood.
Yeah, I wonder who that is. If that is, I saw some people say it might be Hakari. And I mean, this would be a cool arc for him to enter the story, I suppose. But I think the big thing with this story arc now is we have no clue where the fuck this is going. Literally, everything since Mahito got fucking Pokemon has just been a huge fucking gamble. Like, where the fuck the story is going to go next. It's so good. I love it so much.
Yeah, and I assume curse technique removal will, like, kill them or something. Because otherwise,
probably,
I feel like some of them would just be like, okay, you can just have it. I'm not going to kill anybody. So, but I don't know, man. It's stressful because, like, I need to see it start. That's what I need. I just need Yuta and Yuji fighting side by side to continue with my gorilla brain appreciation of everything that's happening right now. I'm so overcome with joy that I'm finally getting some positivity that I can't even, like, speculate. Right now, I'm just shrieking inside.
It's so good, and I'm so happy that we're here. Like the Yuta Yuji team up is one of those things that everyone's been screaming about ever since like Jujutsu Kaisen properly became popular. So I'm so happy that we finally have it. Like I just know their dynamic is gonna smack.
Oh, it's gonna be great, dude. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I finally got what I want, and now it's overwhelming because I've been living off like an IV drip of happy memories for so long that now that I'm getting some positivity, it's too much.
It's like Gege, slow down, you might kill us.
Yeah, what is it? It's like when you've been living in the dark for too long. The smallest light is blinding. Now, Yuta smiled once, and I was like, ah, I can't look anymore.
But I'm so glad that we have Yuta back because I'm really interested to see also like just what his outlook on life is right now. Also, what the fuck's up with Rika? That'd be also good
Yeah,
to
I need
know.
to figure out why he still has Rika. I'm so confused about that.
Yeah,
I've seen a
but I
bunch of different
suppose
theories and stuff, but they're all weird in their own way. I don't know. I just need to know, where did she come from? Why is she back? Why is she here?
where'd you come from? Where'd you go? Where'd you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Anyway,
She does only have one
um,
eye.
that is true. Is that Jutsu Kaisen done then, or is there anything else you want
Uh,
to add?
no. Anything else that I add, like I said, will just be like monkey noises and me
Basically,
banging on my chest. So I think it's a good time to move on.
yeah. I think there's only so many times I can say Sukuna is a devout Catholic before it stops being funny. So, so we can move on to the last one of tonight.
All right, so let's jump to My Hero Academia.
Hmm. The big chapter. First and foremost, I believe we have to address something that I'm sure that I've seen people tweet to me about, and I think it's something we definitely do have to discuss. Best Genius's face,
Yes, I have seen that has been all that anyone has brought up to me is that but we have seen Best Genus's face.
and he is arguably the dumbest looking character in this entire fucking show because he's literally just a stupid fucking giraffe.
Why?
Like
Just look at the neckline on his suit. It's so long.
like his shoulders are at the same height as Hawks' shoulders, but his head is above Endeavor's head. It's the stupidest fucking design imaginable.
Just look at the collar. Look at how long the collar of his button up is.
It's so good. That's my goat right
the
there.
the length of his collar is longer than the size of his head. Like absolute goat. What does fiber control have to do with looking that way?
Nothing. He just like he was just born that way. Okay, let's not pick on him.
It's just God, it's
Like, oh
Endeavor
my
just wearing
god.
like a normal ass man's suit, and then in the background you just look at Best Genus with this long ass neckline.
Like I get why he wears his fucking jean uniform everywhere because he looks like a fucking idiot in anything else.
Like what? How long do you think that tie he's wearing is?
Oh, bro, I'm talking interstate.
I guess we should have known that he looked that way because of the way his stupid jean uniform works. But
Hmm.
seeing him not in that is just so much more apparent. Like he's trying to dress like a person.
Hmm.
It's just not working out.
Yeah, like it's weird. He just looks like a weird giraffe man.
It's like
Now you see this.
he's like
This
7 foot
actually,
tall and two of that is his neck.
he's all neck,
Man's
nothing else. Oh my god, that's why he's been focusing on jeans all the time. He hopes that by making his legs really like pretty and the eye catcher, he can distract people from his weird
it'll
gross neck.
it'll make people look away from his neck. That's why he went with jeans because you wear them on the lower body.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. He's so fucking funny. I love him so much.
He's great. He's still
Oh,
my goat, no matter what.
a number one hero in my heart.
Absolutely.
And anyway, do we want to talk about the actual plot?
Yeah, we probably should.
Okay. So this chapter actually is very sneaky in that it has a tiny time skip at the end, and as in like a time skip of about 3 weeks, because The war happens in March, and then we get 3 days past the war has been this little intermediate arc, and then Deku's like Batman pose is in April. So there's 3 weeks where shit happened that we have not heard about yet, and I'm gonna bet the next couple of arcs are all going to be about what the fuck happened in those 3 weeks. What did Deku learn from the second and third users that made him turn edgy? Uh, what is with the bandages on his arm? Like, why are they not white? Why are they very clearly colored? And why do they look like something we've seen before?
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
I don't.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have to utter the dreaded word. In movie one,
Oh God.
um, there's this quirkless girl, Melissa, who's the daughter of the scientist that made All Might's costumes. And she built something called the Full Gauntlet, which is essentially a piece of red tape that Deku could wear on his arm, which allowed him a limited amount of smashes with no repercussions. And those look exactly like the bandages he has now in that final spread. So, and Melissa is explicitly canon because she is, according to Volume 25, she is the among the team that designed Endeavor's new costume over in the US.
That's
So,
interesting because the spin-off series Team Up Missions, the most recent chapter just came out not that long ago, and it is
mhm.
centered entirely around her.
Yeah, I know. So it definitely feels like she's becoming part of the canon, which is cool. And I like that because like people seem to have this impression of me that I absolutely hate anything to do with the movies and that I don't want anything of that to become canon? And the answer is kinda. Like I hate the stuff that is like game changing. But Melissa is cool. I always liked her. I just hope she doesn't push away Hatsume because I love Hatsume.
Yeah,
I love
so
her more
so
than
Melissa
most
coming
people.
into the canon would also address the second elephant in the room that I've been tweeted 700 times at since the chapter came out. The damn eagle that he's standing on.
Hmm.
Is he in America or is he still in
I've
Japan?
I've seen some people say that that eagle is specifically the one on the Chrysler building, because there are like that is a specific construction, and I don't know. Like, he could be in America for all I know, because the spread he's on is not indicative enough to know if it's Japan. However, he's it says April, and you can see sakura blossoms fly past him, which would mean that whatever wherever he is, they're experiencing hanami, which is the blooming and flying of the sakura petals that happens on the 4th of April generally in Japan. So I would wager to say he's probably still in Japan, but I wouldn't. I mean, it might have just been a visual cue because obviously that spread is a callback to the first spread of the series, which is Deku surrounded by sakura blossoms, seeing the giant villain attack Tatooine Station and saying, "Oh, it's a giant villain," which is the same thing he says here. So I
And
don't know.
it is. I don't know if it's worth noting, but there is a cherry blossom festival in the United States that takes place in April.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh, I didn't know
in
that.
Washington D.C.,
Oh, where's the Chrysler building?
New York, I think.
Oh, well, you see, this is the part where I get to be a stupid European because I know
Yeah, so the
nothing.
Chrysler Building is in Manhattan, New York.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, I've seen people say that it might be that. I have no knowledge on that, but it'd be cool because I mean, 3 weeks is enough time to go to America, obviously. So, yeah,
Okay,
it
well,
could be
apparently
that.
there's a cherry blossom festival in New York also because I typed in the word New York and the very next result was cherry blossom festival. So,
Oh, cool. Google's listening in. Awesome.
Google, great that we're not living in a horrifying apocalyptic Big Brother state. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Fuck Jeff Bezos. But yeah, so bro, where do we even start with this chapter?
the whole thing. I mean, absolutely, maybe my favorite chapter of the franchise up to this point.
Uh-huh.
Just the sheer amount of like, oh my god, like moments and pages were unbelievable. We've got the press
Hmm.
conference, and the reveal. And so the press conference might have been my favorite part because it's kind of taking place between three sides, right? Because you have the heroes that are answering the questions, you have the public who's reacting, and then you have the reader who has like a viewpoint that neither one of them share, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the audience is operating with knowledge or without knowledge that we have as readers, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
the outrage at Hawks killing twice. For the detached reader, a lot of people are like, well, obviously he should have done that. There's no way they could have won otherwise. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, to someone in universe, that's not going to be the same thing. That's basically, you know, an extrajudicial killing,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it would be seen completely differently. So I'm curious to see, especially everybody listening in the comments, how you guys felt about the reactions of the people in the press conference and like how you interpreted the conference, etc.
Yeah, because I saw someone bring it up on Twitter, which I thought was super interesting, is that press conferences are obviously a trope of superhero fiction all around the world.
Right.
But there's a key difference in that in most superhero fiction, the press conferences are given either by like officials that represent the heroes, or they're given by masked heroes whose identities are unknown for the most part. But here we kind of get a mix between the two because here heroes are publicly known public servants basically. And so they have
It's very MCU in this.
yeah,
It feels a
yeah.
lot like almost like Iron Man.
Yeah, very much so. Like they have to stand up for their actions, which is something that the classical superhero story would probably issue for oh, he just disappears after saying I did what I had to do. Whereas here, Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Jeanist are being held accountable for what they did, and not just being held accountable in the legal sense, but held accountable in the court of public opinion, which now arguably is the most important one of the hero society at the moment because like society is in upheaval and it literally depends on how much people can still trust the hero system, which at the moment is like almost nil. um and I god Endeavor's like reaction to how he should atone is so good. Him just being like, look, would if I would were to break down and apologize in tears, would that fix anything? What do you want me to do? You want me to take things into my own hands and you want me to fix this, and I will do that, for that is the only thing, the only way Endeavor could atone. Which is such a bittersweet way of like expressing that, also of course tying into the background of the Todoroki family, right? Like it's almost as if the NG part of his personality is being forced out and he just has to become Endeavor the hero, Endeavor the public symbol more than anything else. It's just so good.
I really like, moving on from Endeavor for a second. One of my favorite pages is just the page of all of the fucked up heroes, like
Mm-hmm.
in their aftermath, determining what they're gonna do. Uh, Side note, I don't is that Kamui Woods with like a leaf afro?
Yes, that's him.
Amazing. Um, incredible. I really like
Uh-huh.
just that page because one, I like the quote. If you define hero as someone the public looks up to and counts on, then heroes vanished that day, which I thought that's a good quote. That's a very good
Mm-hmm.
quote. But I just like seeing that we had that one chapter not too long ago with all the heroes like retiring and giving up, and I like the page of the heroes who are arguably much more messed up than they were, right? Because a lot of the heroes that were retiring were like showing up to help, like
Mm-hmm.
clean up, and they're like, I can't do this. This is too much. But then you see
Mm-hmm.
like all these horribly wounded heroes picking up like the tatters of what's left, getting ready to keep going. It's like
Mm-hmm.
weirdly kind of inspiring, and just it's good. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we flip right into the Uraraka's little moment where she's basically saying we would have helped you if you hadn't left us with these stupid notes and gone off on
Mm-hmm.
your own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like two really good quotes back to back. It's that one, and then followed by the um, if a hero's willing to suffer in silence, who's there to help them?
Yeah, which is like a tie back into Uraraka's
Her
whole
her whole thing
motivation.
where she changed after Night Eye died, where she wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
more capable of helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Will we see them go after him? I don't know. I guess that partially depends on where he is, if he's
Yeah.
in America or not. Also, he
School
has
trip.
Gran Torino's cape, so maybe he died in the time skip, and we can all be happy again.
Yeah. Okay, so you're probably not going to read Attack on Titan because I'm not going to manage Bleach
Okay.
until next month. So in Attack on Titan, there's a time skip at one point, and a pretty massive one. And past that, you get like this big arc where like just shit is happening. You have no clue what happened to like your cast. They're like older now, and shit is just wild with no explanations. And then the arc after that, you almost have like a story about investigative journalism where like a bunch of people like from the military police and shit try to figure out what happened in that time skip. And I am kind of thinking we might get something similar here in Hiroaka, just not to that degree, of course, because these are very different stories. But I could almost imagine that like the first arc after um this change is going to be like very much no explanations, just things happening. And then after that, we're going to see someone, maybe Hawks or maybe a new character, trying to figure out what exactly happened in those mystery 3 weeks that we don't get to see. Because it very much feels like we are going to get a full explanation. Because it's just so abrupt, right? Like, we go from Deku last chapter being all happy, well, not happy, but all inspirational in the spirit world, where he's like, oh, yes, I'm going to save Shigaraki. I'm going to, be inspiring to everyone else, to just fucking despair. Like, he's gone. He's left notes. He has the weird arm brace or whatever. He has Gran Torino's torn cape. He has his costume like bloodied and tattered as if he hasn't actually like managed to talk to anyone. Like, we don't even get to see Bakugo at all this chapter. So I very much think we're going to get a story section that is just going to focus on piecing together what exactly happened in like this little time skip. Unless we of course get an even bigger time skip soon, which I mean, I have no clue where this is going at this point. I'm actually completely clueless, which is awesome. I love that so much. It's the same with Jujutsu Kaisen, right? Like the story just has kind of upturned itself to a point where, dear God, the doors are just open.
Yeah, and it feels like it's just never gonna stop. Like,
Mhm.
which is what I like. Although, moving into the final chapter thing, it almost feels kind of abrupt. Not final chapter, but like the final act. I don't know.
Yes,
It feels abrupt.
that is true. But then I remember I first thought that as well, but then I remembered that Hiro Aka technically is divided into acts, but not like it's not the same as arcs, from what I understand. Because while they are mostly made up fan terms, there is a clear distinction in Hiro Aka between so far the two acts we've had, which the first one is generally called the UA Beginnings act, which goes up until Kamino, up until All Might gets defeats All for One. And then after that, most of the guidebooks have called it like the second act, the Rise of Villains saga. Some people have called it. So what I'm assuming this means is that not that we're entering the final arc, but that we're entering the final saga, so to speak. So the final collection of arcs,
Okay.
because like you can tell that there's always like a collection of themes, right? Like from the beginning up until when All Might loses his power, it's very much about showing here society, showing the various structures within it, and slowly hinting at like, oh, this is kind of unstable. And then past Kamino, you kind of just get arc after arc after arc, showing how like shit is actually really bad and it's just getting worse. And it culminates here in this war arc. And so I'm assuming that this is going to be like the absolute low point, like this and the coming chapters and the coming maybe first arc. And after that, we're going to get like a bunch of arcs centered around kind of building the characters back up and the world back up while still showing the suffering as a consequence of this, at this point, very clear failure on the part of the heroes. Like they lost the war, like through and through. You can't really argue otherwise at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you literally can't.
Yeah.
Everything is fucked now. They're putting
Mhm.
people into school like shelters.
Yeah, pretty
Like
much.
it's not good. It's bad.
Hmm.
It's a bad look.
Yeah, so I don't think MHA is ending this year or next year. I can see the year after. Like I think we have maybe around another 100, 150, 200 chapters left, which would put it approximately near my, 500, 600 chapter original prediction. So, I'm chilling. I'm not too concerned about that. Like it's possible that it's actually meant as the final arc, but that would feel really weird.
Yeah, well, it just seems too rushed. That's too quick. So I would
Yeah,
hope that
exactly.
there's more going to it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. One theory I've seen around, because like one thing is, of course, what did Deku hear from the second and third users that made him decide to do
yeah,
this?
I was about to bring that up because he is literally sitting here like full. He's got Yuta face now.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
got Yuta
basically.
face.
Yeah. And one theory I've seen people throw around is that you know how, I don't know if you noticed, but the MHA is having a museum exhibition
Yes, I
in
did
a
know
couple of
that.
weeks. Yeah. And so we've been slowly getting like the pieces in posts online. And one of them shows a like an eldritch monstrosity crawling out of a metal door that has seemingly nothing to do with Uraka, until you realize that the metal door it's crawling out of is the same door that Izuku imagines One for All as when he thinks about like the quirks of his predecessors in one of the chapters, where he sees like 8 locks that he has to unlock their quirks. And so, Hori has hinted at story developments in art pieces before. For example, he's been showing Deku wearing Gran Torino's cape in like color pages for almost 3 years now. And, now here we are. So some people are predicting, what if this is a hint at the fact that what Deku learned from the predecessors is that One for All is somehow tied to All for One in a way where there's a vestige of him inside of it as well, which is how All for One has been able to target UA so consistently, making Deku, unbeknownst to him, the mole or the traitor that we've been like searching for all this time. Because that would give him a more concrete reason to remove himself from his friends, right? Because then he would be an active danger to them. Whereas, before, if they were like, oh, we can help you and you can be under the protection of the government and whatnot, that would be one thing. But if he literally has like an eldritch eye looking over him and seeing everything that happens around him, that would be much worse. And like, I don't know how much sense this makes narratively, but I read it and I thought, that's kind of cool.
It
And I do
definitely
like the
makes
illustration.
Deku make more sense now
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know. It was very shocking to see him go from like I'm gonna save this sad baby to like a big villain. I gotta go get him. Like
Yeah.
it was very jarring. So it does make sense for there to be something like that at least.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of informing his decision. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then that raises the question like, is All Might with him? Probably, I would think.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean,
like where even
I
is
don't
he in relation to anyone? We're kind of stuck in this like what do where you know
know. Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
it's
it's hard to tell. Hopefully the next chapter will give us a little bit more of a rundown of just like I hope it's not just him fighting whatever villain is right there.
I
Like
don't think so.
I'm perfectly fine with him stomping out a bad guy just to be like, wow, look, he's strong right now. But at the
Hmm.
same time, like we kind of need just some establishing information. Like where
Hmm.
is he? Who's with him? Who knows where he is? I mean, he left the letter 3 weeks ago. So
Hmm.
presumably everyone is aware that he's gone now, more than just the
Hmm.
class.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so many
Which,
so many questions that need to be answered.
yeah, because then there's also the other thing. April means that his classmates now are second years and are starting their new year. Because the blossoming of the sakura heralds the school year in Japan. So like, what does that even look like? Like, does school continue? Are we gonna get like a split focus between the side cast in the Hero Academia trying to hold it together, and Deku like on the streets fucking cockfighting in the underground and shit like that? Like, this can just go so many ways now, and it's so interesting. Like, I am so excited. Also, I love the fact that we are not getting a break every other week like we did during some of the other arcs. Like Hori has just been working his ass off now. Like I think the last break he got was the New Year's break, which is crazy to think about.
That
It's
actually
just
is pretty wild.
constant
You
chapters.
know, now that you
Yeah.
say that, I think there is some series is getting a break next week. I don't remember which one it is. Hang on a second.
I know One Piece is currently on break because One Piece has basically turned into a bi-weekly series in effect.
Oh, it's Doctor Stone. Doctor Stone is on break
Oh,
next week.
okay, okay. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to mention about this chapter, which has doesn't have anything to do with the content. Well, it does, but not with the story content. Um, if you're reading in English, the final spread is actually cropped on all services. Like you're
Really?
supposed to actually see more of the building Deku is standing on, and it is cropped in every version, including the Japanese one, except the Spanish one. For some reason, the Spanish have a wider spread that shows more of the building.
That is very weird.
Yeah, because the Japanese is also cropped. Like, what is happening at Shueisha HQ over there? Because, like, recently
I wonder
someone,
if it was accidentally uploaded then without the full crop.
maybe,
I
but
mean, I
because
can't think of any intentional reason why they would only give the Spanish version the full
the
size.
full, yeah, because
I would
also
assume
another
either
thing
it
that,
was accidentally uncropped or all the others were accidentally cropped. One of the two.
yeah, because another thing that someone pointed out, well, someone has been pointing out for a couple of weeks now, but I only saw it recently, is that uh, the Spanish versions somehow get like freakishly high quality scans, like way higher quality than any of the other language versions. Which I didn't believe at first because I thought, oh, it's just the fact that most English readers read on the Shonen Jump app and not in the Manga Plus app, and Shonen Jump app doesn't have a quality selector, whereas on Manga Plus you can select it to very high, and you get like the full quality scan. But then I checked it out. I changed my language to Spanish, and lo and behold, the quality of the image is actually way higher in the Spanish versions.
Huh.
And I checked with like a couple of friends from other language versions and their local services, and they all have the lower quality versions except the Spanish ones, which is just the weirdest shit.
That's extremely weird.
Yeah, like what is
I
Spain? What is Spain paying Horikoshi? What are they?
I wonder why
They're
that would
paying.
be.
Yeah, they're paying him extra so he draws in 1080p.
Only the highest quality, please. No,
Yeah,
nothing else is acceptable for the Spanish version.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
very strange.
Yeah, that is bizarre, bizarre, bizarre. Like I've seen some people be like, oh, it's Wiz that doesn't care, but it's like, isn't the Spanish manga also handled by Wiz? Like,
I would assume so.
yeah, like I mean, all of it is under the Shueisha umbrella, right? And if even the Japanese versions are seemingly inferior to the Spanish ones, then like, I have no clue. Like that is such a
Spain W. Spanish W down here.
the Spain the Spain dub. Can we get a hashtag Spanish dub?
That is very
Um,
weird, though. Like, I mean, it's not like a bad thing, I guess, or like a big deal, but it's just very
yeah,
weird.
yeah. I mean, I've seen some people make a big deal out of it, like, oh, we're getting worse versions, but like, I don't know, they're still good scans, and like, like I checked out the Spanish ones, and yeah, they're higher quality, but they're not to a degree where you see more detail of most things.
Yeah, quality. At some point, it becomes not that big of a deal. The crop thing is weird, and I'm
Yeah.
inclined to think is accidental.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but up to a point, like there's only so much quality you can get before it just becomes like, does it matter? Does it really
Yeah.
matter? How much more do you need?
Yeah. Like the difference between fan scans and official scans obviously
Oh, sure.
is a fucking mountain. But
Those crunchy ass scans of Davi where you can't even see the new burns on his arm because they're all just black.
yeah, the Kentucky Fried
Yeah,
scans.
Kentucky Fried scans.
Oh my god, I like. Also, can I just say this week especially was so frustrating because people were like making fan art and colorings of the manga on Thursday. It's
Oh,
like,
because everyone
oh
was all excited about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Manga audiences not known for their what do you call it? Courtesy.
yeah.
So,
It's like,
you know.
come on, like it's 2021. You know exactly why this is bad. We're not even gonna tell you. Like, just make that decision for yourself and think a bit.
Yeah, like
Like that
I am
that really
all
annoyed me.
for like manga should not be treated like anime spoilers and you should be allowed to discuss it as much as you want. But
Hmm.
let the shit come out. Manga and the anime are its own thing, right? Like if you're an anime viewer and you
Hmm.
go to a manga Twitter and you're like, "Well, why are you talking about the thing that you do because I haven't it's not an anime yet." That's different. But like
Hmm.
if you're going to get pre-release stuff and just throwing it out to the public like that without any warning, calm down, man. Give
Yeah,
people a
like
chance.
if like one thing I saw happen a lot was that people took the final spread when it was still in trap scans and made it their profile picture, and then started replying to like the official My Hero account. Well, guess what? Your profile picture literally spoils the Japanese fans, because
Mm-hmm.
the magazine comes out Japan Monday morning, and for us it comes out Sunday evening if you're in Europe. I don't know how it is in America. I think it's like noon,
Noonish for
right?
me.
Yeah. Like anything that happens before that is stolen spoilers. And you can choose for yourself if you want to look at them, but for the love of God, like be mindful of other people. Like looking at them by yourself is one thing. Like, I get them tweeted at me sometimes, or I get them like sent to me via like DMs because people get excited. And it's like, looking at them by yourself or in your friend groups, like I can't stop you from that, and I'm not gonna. But like again, making like colorings of those fucking KFC scans 4 or 3 days before the official manga drops in its home nation. Come on,
Yeah,
like you're better.
there's got to be a limit. Like I like generally checking out the spoilers, like I especially the Jujutsu Kaisen ones.
Hmm.
But like you can't, and even to an extent, if you want to just be like, wow, the spoilers are crazy, that's whatever. Because that just says
Hmm.
like if you want to go look at them, they exist and they're crazy. But to what extent is it where you just realize, oh, this is too much? I probably shouldn't upload my fan coloring of the biggest reveal of this new chapter before anybody could even potentially have the chance to read it, other than Kentucky
Legally,
Fried Raws.
yeah, exactly. Like it's disrespectful. It takes steam away from the official release, the one that is actually counted. When the magazine and the services try to see how well a series is doing, and it's just like it's hard for me to stay excited with these things,
Well,
right?
with the
Because
My Hero Academia fan base in general, they seem to not give like half a shit about the numbers that the official release does. I don't know if they think that like it's so big it doesn't matter or what. But I mean, I remember people back when they were freaking out about the translator using hour or something, some
Mhm.
minor transgression this poor translator dared to omit from whatever they thought was right, that they were like, I can't believe I have to go back to reading fan scans every week now instead of reading the official
Mhm.
scans. And I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah,
Like,
like
I don't know. I don't get it.
yeah, like on my most dismissive days, I want to say shit like, if you only read fan scans for a series, you're not actually supporting the series. You might as well not read it, because like you clearly don't care enough about it to actually give it any support that matters. And like that's an unfair take. But also, if you live in an anglophone country with access to the Shonen Jump app, I'm sorry, there's no excuse.
Yeah, I have like, I am generally of the mind that like, I'm not super like anti-piracy kind of guy to an
Hmm.
extent, because you see all these people like English voice actors or whatever being like, do not pirate this series. If it's not released in your country, it's not for you. And I'm like, that's such a dickish, like, entitled ass thing that, like, you just expect people, if they don't have an official release, to not pursue the media in any capacity. They just don't
Yeah,
get
yeah,
to experience it. But when you live in a country that has access to the Shonen Jump app, you have no excuse, in my opinion. You can't,
yeah. Because
you can't spare $2 a month. And I don't want to be just because I know that there are some people out there that can't spare $2 a month, but I know that the vast majority of the people who are whining about the Viz translations and they want to go read fan scans instead because they like the versions that leave in all according to Keikaku, and then what didn't
Mm-hmm.
translate. Like, you have the option and you're choosing not to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where I draw the line with it, is like, if you don't have access to this thing, or it is beyond your capability to obtain it, I am understanding of the need to pirate it. But if
Yeah.
you are choosing to do so for no reason, or at least no legitimate reason, I have no patience for it.
Yeah, because the thing is, right, like anime and manga availability is an absolute fucking mess. Like I live in a country that fucking god, most anime licensors don't even know we exist. Um so I have empathy for people who just don't have access to official services. I am one of them. I needed to go through like 17 different hoops just to get my hands on a way to read most of my manga legally as they come out, and that's not something you can feasibly expect people to do. I'm just crazy. But at the same time, while it is obviously, Viz's and Shueisha's and all of these people's responsibility to offer services at a reasonable price that give you the opportunity to check to support these series legally, when those services exist in your region, it is equally like it is your move to then support them. Like, I'm sorry, people. There is never going to be a deal that's better than the Shonen Jump app. Two
Nope.
dollars a month for every single thing the vault has to offer, which is like 10,000 chapters of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's
Like,
like, I mean, it's a crazy deal. I use it every day. Every single
yeah,
day when
like
I want to read, I use it.
yeah, like it's not going to get better than that. It's too cheap, if anything. Like thinking about it, 10,000 pages worth of writing, that does not exist for anything else. That is a crazy good deal. And if you're looking at that, you're part of the majority of the population where $2 is not a life-changing amount of money. If you're looking at that, I'm going like, hey, I'm not paying $2 for manga. Then I'm sorry, you were never going to pay money, no matter how good the service was going to be. Like I'm
Right.
just
There's
gonna
there's no
go
way
ahead and read
to
this.
win you over at that point. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing else that can be done. And I don't know. It's just one of, like, again, I want to stress that I'm not talking about someone who has no access to it otherwise.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah. Of
for the
course.
people, seeing people say shit like, "Oh, this translation was not to my liking, therefore I will have to go read some stolen scan this dude translated in his basement." Like, I'm gonna, that's what I'm gonna do from now on. Is like, can
Mm-hmm.
you even call yourself like a fan of the series if you're going out of your
Mm-hmm.
way to like not support it? It's
Mm-hmm.
an objectively worse experience to read these shitty little, like, Kentucky Fried Nightmare scans where it's just like you can barely tell any color that isn't pitch black or bright white. Like, you are
Yeah.
intentionally going out of your way to worsen the experience for yourself to avoid supporting the series. So are you actually a fan of it or not? Like, what do you want?
Yeah, it's such a roundabout thing. And of course, this feeds also into the larger things with anime and piracy, which is, the everlasting discussion of is it fine to pirate things in anime uh, as a response to the lackluster localization and distribution certain regions experience. And while I think there is a very legitimate discussion to be had there, if you live in a region that offers a very reasonable service and just choose not to use it, then I'm sorry, you clearly don't care about any of this. You just really don't want to pay $2 a month, which, like, that's your choice. And again, as you've reiterated and as I also want to reiterate, this all presumes that you live in America, the UK, or another anglophone country with access to this app and are living in conditions that make $2 a month a non-painful supposition. Obviously, if you live in any other condition, this does not apply to you, right? Like if you live
Yeah.
in Switzerland, if you're my neighbor, I can't tell you to support the official release because the official release doesn't know we exist. Like it's not great, but when the services exist and when they're good, you should support them because that's how you make sure that there's an interest. Like here in Switzerland, no one supports any of the small official channels that exist because they're really shitty. And while that is justified, the result of that is that our government thinks there's no interest in anime because they can only count the official pieces of consumption. So, when 70K people write a petition saying, hey, we want more anime licensed here, the Ministry of Culture just says, no, our statistics show that there's just no interest based on, our shitty version of Crunchyroll that we have here that has like 2 anime. So it's like a self-perpetuating cycle, and you need to find ways to support and to make yourself heard in a productive manner. And I think the best way to do it, if you live in the UK or the US, is to just fucking pay those $2 a month. Like, come
Yeah, I
on.
mean that's a good point because when you remove yourself from official support, you kind of remove yourself from the right to request more. I don't know if that is worded exactly the way I want to word it, but it's like it reminds me of like a free to play player in a gacha game or something being like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna boycott it because of this and that. And it's like, well, you weren't gonna give them the money anyway, so they're really not looking at your boycott, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're not particularly interested in what you have to say because you're not gonna contribute to it in a meaningful way, right?
yeah,
And if
exactly.
you pirate a video game and then you go to that video game company and you're like, hey, this game, I want you to put this, this, and this mode in, and they're like, well, you didn't buy it, like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't know, because again, I don't think it's necessarily exactly the way I wanted to word it that you have no right to to request differently, but it's more that you remove your thoughts and opinions from consideration by people who are required to look at the official numbers, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
if you stop paying for the app or whatever, and then whatever country you're in is like, oh well, people aren't using the app, so we're gonna discontinue service. And then you're like, well, what the hell? It's like, a game can have a million players, but if none of them spend any money, the game is going to die. If you
yeah,
intentionally remove your support from the product and then you wonder why companies don't support the product, I don't know what to tell you at that point. That was your
yeah.
decision to get to that point.
Exactly. And it's not like it's not like we're advocating here for like supporting objectively terrible services just because, oh well, uh, you know, that's the only one I have available. Because like, if you have something like like again, the Swiss version of Crunchyroll, it's fucking pathetic. It's useless. It's worse than the American one, and people already hate that one. So
Yeah,
like,
people fucking hate Crunchyroll over here. I deal with it. Like, I even think to an extent with something like Crunchyroll, there's a discussion to be had there.
mm,
I don't know that the discussion is what people want because I do think that if Crunchyroll exists and you're choosing not to use it, anime is different though because anime is so dependent on like volume and video players. Like if you're going to watch an episode and Crunchyroll crashed and you can't watch it on Crunchyroll, then fine, go watch it wherever you can see it. Like this was a really big thing when Dragon Ball Super was airing, because every
yes,
single time Ultra Instinct came out, the site would crash.
yes, I
And
remember
then
that.
you'd have all these people being like, "Don't pirate it, don't pirate it, don't." And it's like people aren't going to do that. The half the internet is having the hype freak out right now because they managed to get in before the site crashed, and you're just
Hmm.
telling this other half of the internet to just shut up and wait your turn. Like they're not going to do that realistically. Whether or not
Yeah,
you think
yeah,
it's the morally right thing to do, realistically they're not going to do that. They're going to go to whatever works and they're going to watch it when they can. And
yeah,
that is a discussion I think that you can have because anime is a little bit more dependent on a lot of factors. But like with manga,
yeah,
man, it's the same damn pictures everywhere.
yeah,
The
yeah,
app
and
isn't gonna crash on you from too many people reading this new chapter.
yeah, and I also think that people have a weird conception of what makes a bad versus good service, because one thing I keep seeing is like, oh, how much does this app actually support the original creator? And it's like, you don't get to ask that question because you're like follow up to that. If I say, oh, just a little bit, is just okay. In that case, I'm going to read fan scans which don't support the original creator at
At
all. So
all.
like,
You're right.
yeah, it's a pointless question. Like, if your solution to lack of support of the creator is to move away from something that supports the creator a little bit to something that supports him absolutely nothing and actually detracts from his value, then like, why are you even pretending that that's something you care about?
Right, because
Like,
it's more than just like, oh, how much of a cut of the sale does he get? It's a statistic game, right? Like,
mhm,
oh, the original. I remember it's like people freaking out about some new YouTube thing where it's like, oh, you can donate to creators, but if you do, they don't get as much money. So then people are like, oh, well, then I just won't give him anything. And it's like, well,
mhm,
he's still getting something if you do that. When you're looking at manga, it's a little bit different because usage statistics are important. And readership
Mhm.
numbers are important. I mean, we talk all the time about series in Shonen Jump getting canned after like 12 weeks. How many
Mhm.
people during those 12 weeks were reading fan subs and fan scans?
Yeah.
How many
Yeah. Like
people during those 12 weeks could have been reading the official version and we might still have one? You don't know. And I'm not trying to say it's their fault that these things were canceled or anything, but it's something to think about.
yeah. Like, and, I think I think we may also be like making this discussion bigger than it really is because I think for a lot of people it really just is I want to watch anime, I want to read manga, where can I get it? And they Google it and they find the free sites first. Like I think that's how it is for most like casual fans, right? Um Also, I there's so much misinformation and disinformation going on about that. Like there's so many people who think that the chapters actually drop on Fridays and Wiz is just very late because they don't respect the Japanese or whatever. Um,
Jesus
like,
Christ.
there's the entire YouTube scene where people just talk about chapters as if they just dropped on Friday when the fan scans drop. And it's like, that creates an impression on new readers. It creates the impression that, Friday is manga day and anything later than that is just, oh, it's the 4 kids Americans holding out on us because they have to make sure it's SJW proof or whatever.
Right.
You
And
know.
that's weird too, because, like, that's two clashing mediums that you've got right there, right? Because, when you're trying to do something like news or anime reviews, you've always got to be the first one. I got to get my review up ASAP so that everyone will watch mine because no one's going to watch more than one or two once it's
Uh-huh.
done. So then that encourages you to grab the dirty raws and throw them up and be like, look at this. Look at this fan sub where Bakugo says fuck 47 times and then calls Mina an ass rag. Like, look at this. And
Hmm.
then that again creates the perception of these people who their only exposure to it is through YouTube and where they can find it, that's how it's supposed to be. And that's how you get the guy who says the real version is the dirty censored version.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
the Viz version is the nasty censored version. The real uncensored version is the one where he calls her an ass rag.
Yeah, and you can also like to plug another hole is that you can say, oh, fan subbers, they're just passionate fans and they're trying to get things
I'm
early.
sorry,
And
I
it's like,
can't help
hey,
but laugh after hearing plug another hole after we had that talk about Ghetto.
that's okay. I'll leave you to your imagination. Um, but a people realize that leaks are literally stolen magazines, right? Like they don't the come like Shueisha doesn't just graciously hand out the leaks beforehand and is like, here, be excited. Like those are stolen magazines. They're fucking ripped out of their fucking, delivery cases and by employees or other people adjacent to them, taking pictures of hastily on iPhones to make sure that they don't get caught. Like I'm like, look, I know people who are very, very excited about fan scans all the time, and I don't want to like stand on anyone's toes here, but you do need to realize that that is illegally attained material. Like, no two ways about it. And B, fan scans and fan subgroups have been getting very, very bold as of late. I don't know if you remember, but when the Mirio chapter dropped in the War arc, the fan scan group that was handling that at the time tried introducing a new thing where they would intentionally mistranslate things and then you'd have to pay for the real translations by them on their Patreon.
I
And that
do
died.
remember that, which is
Yeah.
super nasty.
Yeah, and that died within 2 weeks because of course. But and they were like, oh, it was just a joke. It's like, okay, if it was a joke, why did you have a payment pipeline ready? Why did you have, already ideas as to how to mistranslate things? Like clearly that was just a joke, right? Like, and the fact that these sentiments can come out and that, the idea of monetizing fan scans is a thing that has happened and that has been brought up by certain groups, you just need to realize that at that point you're creating a parallel illegal market to the official release. And at that point, you are supporting an illegal competitor to the property you supposedly love so much. And at that point, like, look, I'm not anyone's dad, right? I just have to tell you, like, you have to make the decision for yourself. You have to look at that for yourself and think, man, is this something I want to support? is this how I want to show my support for this thing I love so much? And you can say, oh, I'm not a fan of My Hero. I'm just gonna read. I only read fan scans of things I don't like, and at that point, I'm like, okay, weirdo, but okay, you know, it's like, oh, I if I know I hate a video game, I'm gonna pirate it. It's like you could also just not
Just
play it.
not engage with it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know what it's such a bizarre it's such a bizarre landscape of opinions because I think it's also to do with the fact that people just look at online property and like things that are online as a completely different thing than like you know real things that you can buy and or steal. Like it's the same discussion as like stealing art and shit where people are like, oh, it's on the internet, like someone is going to get their hands on it anyway. Trying to monetize it is not worth it. And it's like, huh, that sure is a depressing fucking outlook.
It's just weird to me to look at it as like, you know, you're looking at things like monetized fan translations, right? And you're
Hmm.
thinking like, oh, if I do this, I get like early access or whatever, but like you don't. You're just paying someone that stole it for them to share it with you. And at that point, you're basically like you're paying someone that's poisoning the thing that you want to keep existing. Like you're paying money to actively harm the property that you're trying to that you love so much that you can't wait another day to read more of. It's
Hmm.
so backwards. Like you're going out of your way and spending money to people who didn't really do anything. They just stole something and translated it a few days earlier. And you're
Yeah.
giving them money that you want to go to this property that you claim to like really really like. And like you said, for people who are like, "Oh, I don't read the officials for series I don't like." Generally, I call bullshit on those people, and that's just them being like excusing it through whatever
Hmm.
way they want to. But like, I just can't fathom again unless like you just don't have the means. I can't fathom a justification for it to
Yeah.
supersede
Exactly.
like. And if you read leaks and scans and fan scans and stuff, and then you support the official afterward, I could not care less about you. That's fine,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
like it's like people who used to watch again back to the Dragon Ball Super thing because this was when it was really publicized, especially like on Twitter and stuff. When people used to watch it live, like they would watch the restream cams of the
Hmm.
live airing on whatever channel that came on, and then you
Hmm.
would go watch it on Crunchyroll later with subs. You're fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do with
Yeah.
that.
Because I mean,
Like, you're still supporting the property. I don't care what you do with it at that point. It's like ROMs. Like, do you own the game and you also want the ROM? I don't care at all about that.
yeah. Exactly. I mean, okay, ROMs. Especially if you're talking about Nintendo, we get into like the fun territory. But
Well, so for so a lot of the ROMs is the same thing for me as like regional restrictions on manga. It's like if they're not going to give you an alternative, you are well within your rights to pursue whatever options you have. I
oh
don't
yeah,
care.
yeah.
Like if Nintendo, because there's a ton of stuff, especially with Nintendo, where like they've nuked all the ROMs for it, but they will never ever release it again, ever.
Hmm.
So like, do what you got to do. At that point, I don't care. I'm not an advocate for these giant companies trying to make sure they make as much money as possible. But especially when it comes to like manga, I'm an advocate for this author getting to continue his work. I don't really care that much about Shonen Jump's bottom line or Shueisha's bottom line. To be honest, it doesn't mean that much to me. But it
Yeah.
does mean a lot to me that these authors who are getting a chance in this giant, magazine get to keep that chance. And like with My Hero Academia and like Jujutsu Kaisen, the ship has sailed. An individual pirate is not going to tank My Hero Academia, and they're not really
Yes.
realistically going to tank Jujutsu Kaisen. But these are tangible things that you need to think about when you're looking at that do have an impact, even on these big series like this.
Yeah. And
Like
you know,
Jujutsu Kaisen, you can look at the numbers it's posting right now. Would it be hitting those massive numbers if everybody was just like, I'm just going to read the leaks and not touch it anymore?
yeah. I mean, the series laid pretty much dormant for for most of its first year in the US at least. Like it was popping off in Japan, but it just could not get off the rails overseas because the official versions were coming out so slowly and the fan scans were getting read, but they weren't getting counted into the success of it. And that caused the official versions to get delayed further because they were like, oh, there's no interest. you know. Um, I think the English publication left off at the cliffhanger where in the chapter where Junpei dies, right before the fight between Maito and Itadori. It left off on that cliffhanger for like 6 months because
I
they just
remember
I
that. Is
do
that was the big chunk of chapters that was missing, right? When they
yeah I
finally
do.
started uploading?
Yeah, because it happened at like a weird time when they were transitioning from the English Shonen Jump magazine over to the Wiz and Shonen Jump Plus apps. And so it kind of got caught in the crossfire and didn't get published for a long time. And in that time, people didn't have an alternative. They read fan scans, but as a result, Jujutsu Kaisen was pushed down on the priority for the English releases because they just thought, oh, there's no interest in this. We're not really receiving anything through our official channels. And when we drop a new official chapter, barely anyone reads it because everyone's already read it in fan scans. So it's very very unfortunate that that is something that is so common. And I also see some people say that supporting official releases also means supporting Shueisha, and Shueisha is basically Japanese Disney. um and it's like, yes, but also again, uh are you really that consistent within yourself if you say that your main concern is supporting the right people, and so your answer to the current situation is to just support no one
Yeah, I mean, it
while
is
stealing the
not
content?
supporting the giant company worth withholding your support from the individual?
Yeah,
Like, it's
because
true that that means supporting Shueisha, but you're still supporting that author at the end of the day. Like,
yeah,
does it
because
suck? Yeah, but they need that support, you know?
yeah, because you also need to remember, mangaka do not earn that much money. Like, you need to be Kishimoto to be rich, and Kishimoto became rich later when Naruto really popped off and he started making money off of multiple book sales. I am gonna wager to say that Gege definitely is not anywhere near rich. Hori might have just started getting into like big boy territory. Like, you get paid nothing as a mangaka. Like, you do need to realize that, and the little bits you get paid are all directly as from the book sales. They're from the revenue sales from apps, and they're from the per something views payments, and they're small, but they matter because
That's
small amounts
interesting.
of
I
money.
just Googled Kohei Horikoshi's net worth, and it says that as of 2020, based on public sources, it's anywhere from 100,000 to $1 million.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I'm just gonna straight up say that probably takes into account his estate, which he
Well,
does
I would
not have
assume.
control
Well,
over.
again, this is net worth, not like his bank account numbers.
Well, yeah,
But
because you
even
also
then,
need to.
for something that's this massive, that's very tiny.
Well, yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, compare
I
it to
think
like, J.K. Rowling's estate.
let's actually Google Kishimoto's net worth because I'm pretty sure it's pretty small.
$20 million.
Okay, so his $20 million, which isn't small. Like, that's more money than I'll ever see in my life. But if you can think about Naruto, how much money that has made, 20 million isn't that much.
Not really.
And again, this is counting the estate. This is counting everything
Yeah, again, this is
Kishimoto
this is his
technically
net worth,
owns.
not his bank account.
Yes, and then you get into the fun bits of manga contracts, which is the fact that they don't own their own creations. Like, when you sign the big boy contract at Shueisha, you essentially sign off most of what you own from the story, and you are left with only the most pitiful royalties. So when it says 20 million for Kishimoto's net worth, what that means, it's his actual money plus his estate and everything he owns, and then plus whatever part of the Naruto franchise is still listed under his name but is actually under the hands of Shueisha. Like, it's
Yeah, I mean, a
really
good example of
insidious.
that is Slam Dunk. Like, that author no longer works with them, but
Hmm.
that doesn't make Slam Dunk his anymore. It's just
Yeah,
theirs. He left it there when he left.
yeah, yeah, and it's important to realize that these are very unfair, very brutal contracts for the most part, and you can say, okay, then why should I support it? Why should I support an industry that's this bad? And it's like, buddy, I do not have the answer for that. Like,
Go back
Capitalism
and watch
sucks.
the anti-capitalism episodes. There you go. Like, we know it sucks. There's nothing you can do
Exactly.
about it, you know?
Exactly.
That's
Like
the system that
capitalism,
we're operating in.
yeah, it's a system that's too big for us to tackle. And while we're in it, and this is like a personal opinion at this point. I can't and all of this kind of is like I can't pretend that these are universal truths, and I'm not. So anyone who's trying to type that out, you can save it for yourself. But like, I just think as long as we live in this system, it is our responsibility to reward creativity and non-standard, non-capitalist routes with our monetary support. And even if that support is funneled through like 7 layers of shit, I still think that's preferable than to just say no. I'm just stealing the fruits of their creativity without paying them at all. But again, at that point, we've reached the point of this discussion where like there is no golden road. You kind of have to
Right?
decide for
There's
yourself.
no universal good answer.
Yeah, I mean we've kind of just reached fuck capitalism again. But
Well, we always end up back there somehow.
that's true. But this might be actually the most serious way we've approached
Yeah,
it
this is
so far.
certainly our most earnest fuck capitalism ever.
Yeah, because like we all exist within this absolutely fucked system, and we throw that phrase around a lot. No ethical consumption of capitalism, but it really is true. Like, I wish I could support Horikoshi without supporting Shueisha, because Shueisha really is an awful company, but I can't. And the abstract, like larger problems that Shueisha has are not something I can solve. They're not something whose abolition I can really contribute to. I'm overseas. I'm not that monetarily fluid. I just can't do anything about it. What I can do is I can support an author who I earnestly and truly respect and enjoy. And like, is that the perfect solution? No, of course not, but it's a solution. It's a way for me to feel like I'm having an impact on someone whose work is really dear to me.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
like,
a simple way that I like to look at it is your support toward the author is going to benefit him more than withholding it will harm Shueisha.
that's actually a very good way.
Like
That's actually a very good way to
the
look at it.
benefit that the author gets from that support is always going to hit harder than any company is going to care that you don't read their magazine.
Yeah.
They'll just cut
Yeah.
the guy and move on. The company's not in danger at any point.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's the horror again of capitalism, right? Because all of these companies, they're just too big to be destroyed at this point. They'll just cut out individual people, and at that point you're just harming fellow workers. And I get it. Shueisha's Japanese Disney and whatnot, but trying to use that as an excuse to not support authors and to instead opt for ways that directly harm them is just such a snippy and snotty response. Like, it's when people say, oh, I don't support Funimation and Crunchyroll with their anime. I will support the author by buying figurines off of eBay. Like, okay, you clearly have a strong idea of the monetary flow of, merchandise. Clearly. I remember that was a big movement maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But we were like, no, buy figurines directly from Japan. It's like, buddy, you're buying them from eBay. They're used.
Yeah, one, they're used. Two, you need to know every single person's individual contract for that to make any sense. You
Yeah,
don't know how
exactly.
much of a cut they get from merch on a series by series basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, the point is capitalism sucks. We're all stuck in it, and we need to make sure that we try and support the people who try to persevere through it and remain creative. Because, dear God, trying to be creative in a world where you have to work 8 hours a day is fucking awful.
Yes, it's a fucking nightmare.
Yes. Do we want to sign off on that cheery note?
Yeah, I guess we should. Oh man, that's a depressing episode. Yeah, I guess that was
That was Shonen Chill.
that
The,
was Shonen and Cry, everybody.
the fucking cartoon podcast signs off with "We are stuck in a capitalist
We are
hellscape and there's
stuck in a
no way out."
nightmare world, and just we have to do our best.
Oh my god,
Oh,
Zen, this is why Gege and Hori never give us good things. because when we're happy in their manga, we're unhappy in real life. While we were suffering in Jujutsu Kaisen and in My Hero, we kept being super positive and had like our haha moments. And as soon as things get really cool, we're like, oh, dude, ever think about how money has no real value? That's fucked up.
So they were doing it for our benefit, is what you're saying. He hasn't
Gekatami
brought back
Koya
Nobara because the
Horikoshi.
week that he brings her back, I'm just gonna spiral into depression.
The week Nobara comes back, you're like, oh, that's awesome. And then just implode into like fucking rants about the system.
Oh God! All right. I'm gonna cut it. Thank you, everybody who watched. We'll see you next week with maybe an episode that's not so sad.
All right, fellas, take care. Bye bye.